You just joined a new team. Your manager says, get familiar with the codebase. You open GitHub. There are 800 files, 12 services, 0 documentation. You don't know which folder to start in. You don't know which service does what. And your manager expects you to be productive by end of week. What if you could just ask, this AI just read 847 files, understood 12 services, and explain the checkout flow in under 3 seconds, with citations pointing to the exact lines of code it used. Here's the honest truth about joining a new code base. Nobody reads every file. You spend days, sometimes weeks, building a mental model by reading, guessing, asking teammates, and tracing function calls manually. You open a file, get halfway through it, get interrupted, come back and have to start over. It's slow, it's frustrating, and half the time you still get the architecture wrong in your head. GitHub's built-in search is keyword only. It finds a word you typed, not what you actually meant. Search for how does authentication work, and it returns every single file that contains the word auth, which is basically every file in the project. That's not a search. That's noise. And ChatGPT, it has never seen your repo. It was trained on public data up to a certain date. Ask it about your code base, and it gives you a confident-sounding answer that has nothing to do with your actual code. It's pattern matching, not understanding. So we end up doing what engineers have always done, asking a teammate who's been on the project longer, interrupting their focus, waiting for a reply, getting a half answer, repeating the cycle. There has to be a better way. This is the AI GitHub Repo Explainer. You give it any public GitHub URL. It reads every file, indexes the entire code base, and lets you ask natural language questions, and it answers from the actual code. It's not searching documentation. It's not guessing. It has actually read and understood the repository you gave it. The whole stack runs on an AWS EC2 instance. No OpenAI API key. No per token cost. Sentence Transformers handles embeddings. ChromaDB handles storage, all self-hosted. One Docker compose command and everything is up. Here's how it works. You paste a GitHub URL. The backend clones the repo and splits every file into overlapping chunks, small enough for the AI to process, with enough overlap that context isn't lost at the boundaries. Each chunk gets converted into a vector embedding using sentence transformers, a local model that turns text into numbers that represent its meaning. These vectors get stored in ChromaDB, a vector database that can find semantically similar content, not just keyword matches. When you ask a question, the same embedding model converts your question into a vector. ChromaDB finds the top 5 most relevant chunks from the repo. Those chunks get injected into a prompt, and the LLM generates an answer grounded in the actual code, with source citations so you can verify. The LLM never sees the entire repo, only the 5 most relevant pieces. That's what keeps it fast and accurate. One command to start everything. The AI Repo Explainer frontend runs on port 3000. The FastAPI backend on 8000. ChromaDB on 8001. And the Shopflow demo e-commerce app, the repo we're going to analyze, is running on port 3002. All 4 containers, one command. This is Shopflow on port 3002, a realistic e-commerce platform with front-end, back-end API, payments, orders, and inventory services. This is the codebase we're going to feed to the AI. I'm going to index the Shopflow e-commerce app, a realistic multi-service application with a front-end, back-end API, payments, orders, and inventory services. I'm going to index the Shopflow e-commerce app, a realistic multi-service application with a front-end, back-end API, payments, orders, and inventory services. Watch the progress stream. It's cloning the repo, splitting files into chunks, running each chunk through the embedding model, and loading everything into ChromaDB. This takes about 30 seconds for a repo this size. Now, let me ask a few questions about the repo in AI GitHub Repo Explainer. This is a large monorepo with multiple projects inside it. So I'm asking specifically about Shopflow. In under 3 seconds, It pulled the right files from the right subproject, with citations showing exactly where it found this. Now let's go deeper. How does checkout work? It traced the entire checkout flow across multiple services. Cart validation, payment API, order creation, inventory update, all from reading the actual source code. Here's the question a DevOps engineer would actually ask before deploying. It found the Docker Compose file, extracted every environment variable, and explained what each one does. This used to mean 20 minutes of reading config files across multiple services. Here's what changed. Before, you spend 2 to 3 hours manually reading a new codebase before you can answer a single architectural question. After, you index once in 30 seconds and ask anything. And because it persists to disk, you index a repo once and query it forever. Restart the containers. Your data is still there. The full code is on GitHub, link in the description. Start the repo if this was useful. It takes 2 seconds and it helps a lot. This is Project 02 of a 30-project series. Every project is a real AI system, not a tutorial, not a toy. Full stack, deployed, working code. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Next up, I feed Terraform code into an AI and it generates the full architecture diagram automatically. No manual diagramming. Ever again.